Hello. The title of my presentation is an Online Causal Mapping Tool for Environmental Systems Education. My name is Conor McCrossan and I'm from the National University of Ireland, Galway. My research was funded by a European Horizon 2020 project called Responsible. The focus of the Responsible project was on increasing ocean literacy. And ocean literacy is defined as an understanding of the ocean's influence on you and your influence on the ocean. The content of my presentation will include the DAPSR framework, which the causal mapping tool is actually based on, a description of the online causal mapping tool itself, and then some information on the use of the tool. Here we have the DAPSR framework. So it's based on the DPSIR framework, which describes interactions between humans and the environment. So it's a framework used by people who want to create a model of environmental or ocean topics in relation to the interaction between humans and the environment. So DAPSR stands for driver, activity, pressure, state, impact, welfare, response. And in the image here we have elements, the three of the first elements of the DAPSR, which are driver, activity and pressure. So as we can see in the diagram, the driver drives an activity and the activity causes a pressure. So a driver is a social, demographic or economic development and the corresponding changes in consumption and production patterns. So an example of a driver would be the human need for seafood. An activity is a human activity in response to a driver. So an example of an activity could be the activity of fishing to fulfill the need for food. Then we have a pressure, and this is the mechanism through which an activity has an actual or potential effect on any part of the ecosystem. So based on the example of fishing, we could have a pressure of where specific species are being over-extracted. And also to make the point that pressures affect the state of the environment. So here we have the second half of the DAPSR framework. In the image we can see we have the elements state, impact, welfare and response. So the pressure on the state results in the impact. The impact affects the welfare or human welfare, and the welfare drives the response. So with the state, it's the level of health of a marine ecosystem or the natural environment. We can have changes in physical, chemical or biological properties. The change is different to that which occurs under natural conditions. So we're not interested in modelling changes that occur naturally. We're interested in modelling changes that occur as a result of human activity. The state change is significant and permanent, and an example of the state is the state of fish stocks. So an impact, an environmental impact, which is an adverse consequence of a pressure. It's caused by human activity or natural phenomena, and an example of an impact could be reduced fish stocks. So the welfare element of the DAPSR framework, people benefit from ecosystems in a number of ways, and the ways people are benefiting from ecosystems is collectively becoming known as ecosystem services. So the ecosystem services are becoming involved in things like the provision of clean drinking water and the decomposition of waste. So an example of a welfare element in the DAPSR framework would be less choice for seafood consumption. So then we come on to a response, which is societal reactions to and measures. It's aimed at preventing drivers' activities and pressures from having an effect on the state, and these then in turn cause impacts on the ecosystem and the human welfare. So an example of a response could be fishing quotas. Here we have the Online Causal Mapping Tool. So the Online Causal Mapping Tool allows users to log in and create graphical representations of environmental topics. So here in the center of the image we can see the model or graphical representation of the environmental topic. The users can choose from elements from the DAPSR-based ontology, which is shown on the left-hand side. So on the left-hand side we have the DAPSR elements: driver activity, pressure state, impact, welfare, response, and the user can click on each of those to expand the tree of different types that are related to the different DAPSR elements. So to create an element on the canvas in the center, the user would hold the mouse key down on the element in the left hand section and drag and release the mouse key on the canvas to create that type of element. And then when that element is created, the user can click on the element and view the properties and edit the properties in the right hand side of the tool. And then to actually create links between the elements, the user can click on the element, and when the user clicks on the element, a menu appears around the element, and they can use one of the features to drag a line from that element to the next element to create connections between the different elements. Here we have an example of a user creating an activity type on the canvas. So the user has expanded the branch for activity in the left hand section in the ontology, and they have chosen the element consumption and household. So they have dragged and dropped that element on the canvas and then clicked on the element in the canvas and edited the name to be consumption of cosmetic products, and they've entered the description: the European cosmetics consumption is the largest market of the world, and it also shows that the category of this element is activity. Here we have an example of the user creating an actor type on the canvas. So this is for the Coastal Tourism Causal Map, and the actor section of the ontology is expanded. So we can see that the user has expanded professional, tertiary sector, and has chosen the type food and beverage providers. So they have dragged and dropped it onto the canvas, and they've created the actor resort managers, who are food and beverage providers. And then to connect the actor to the activity holiday accommodation, they would drag a line from the element to the actor, and then that links that actor with that activity. In this example, the user is creating a knowledge type on the canvas. So this is for the invasive alien species causal map. And we can see that the knowledge section of the ontology is expanded on the left-hand side, and the user has expanded the second degree media branch and print media to select the type flyer. So they have placed a flyer element on the canvas, and they have called it passenger and freight transport flyer, and its ontology type is the flyer type, which is a subcategory of the print media in the ontology. And in the center of the image we can see that they have linked the flyer with the driver globalization. Here we have an example of how the tool was used by some of the responsible partners to create a coastal tourism causal map. So in the left-hand section, we can see that the user has created the drivers globalization, economic structure, and economic growth as the drivers for coastal tourism. These drivers represent a more general view of the coastal tourism causal map, and we feel that the educational value of this map could be improved by being more specific with the drivers we create. So examples of more specific drivers could be the driver interest in sun, sea and sand holidays, and maybe another driver economic benefits of tourism. And this would give a more specific view of coastal tourism rather than the more general view that was used by the responsible partners when they were using the tool. Here we have part of the causal map created by the users of the tool when they were creating a causal map of ballast water and invasive alien species. That was the topic they were creating the model for. They've created connections between a number of different actors. For example, ship owners and charters are connected to European and national legislators, and then the actor ship officers is connected to ship owners and charters. So when we reviewed this causal map, we feel that it would be beneficial to group the actors into groups. So a way of doing that would be to create an actor group, shipping actors, and then in the shipping actors group we could add ship officers, marine equipment manufacturers, industrial manufacturers, and financial and insurance institutions. So this would give a more structured view of the actors in relation to ballast water and invasive alien species, and it would also be more useful for people who are interested in actual viewing the different type of actors that are related to the topic. So, in conclusion, after reviewing the existing tools available for creating causal maps, we feel that our tool compares favourably with the existing tools. The tool is based on an ontology, an ocean literacy ontology, where the user can choose elements to add to the model. The map elements are linked with knowledge in an online knowledge base, which allows the knowledge to be retrieved and searched. The users can create educationally beneficial causal maps of ocean literacy topics using our tool, and also the causal maps can be viewed by people who are interested in learning about the topics. And this is the final slide just of the references used during the presentation, and the references are related to the DPSIR framework, the Ocean Literacy framework, and the Responsible project. Thank you.